I guess, yeah, let's kick into it, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Hey, you betcha.
Thanks for breakfast at Chili John's today.
Hey, you betcha. Shout out to Chili John's. Yeah, we were going to film it there, but it was just so small.
Yeah.
Like, because it was, I mean, we were packed tight in the corner, and it was great food. I'll just say that. Great food, but it was a very small place.
It's a small place. It's a shoebox place, but that's cool.
Oh, yeah. The bathroom door was like 2 feet wide. Like, you got to walk in there sideways, you know?
Did you hear the fella? He said, thanks for sitting in the corner.
No,
by the
I
bathroom
didn't.
door. He
That's what he
said that to me. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. No, it was friendly people.
It's great, man.
Good old small town Wisconsin.
Well, thanks for coming down here to do this.
Hey, you betcha. So, I mean, you're on tour. I guess give people a little rundown about you.
Yeah. What's coming up soon for me is I'm drumming with Trixter, and we have dates this spring. The ones that have been announced are going to be a tour, a lot of West Coast things with Pretty Boy Floyd and Enough's Enough, and a young guy named Christian Shields. And those are going to be like, I think we're doing, starting on March 21st. We're going to head through Kansas and get up to Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, and down to Anaheim. We're playing the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood and Count Vamps in Vegas, and then back through all the way over to Cincinnati. I think we're playing Harrison again, the Blue Note, in April, and the Winchester, I think, in Cleveland area, Lakewood, Ohio. So a bunch of dates. It'll be on the TrixterRocks.com website and their social media. They do a good job updating all that stuff. So
Nice.
just take a look for that if you're interested in that sort of thing.
If you want to go see a good band, I mean, the guys are fantastic. So Ben, I met you at a drum workshop that you were doing when I was younger, and it was crazy because in small town Wisconsin, there's not, like I told you at breakfast this morning, there's not really many big people that come to Wisconsin. Like the biggest we have is like a local bakery or something. There's not a whole lot that's like worldwide. So you coming in and doing the drum clinic was a big deal.
Yeah, we had fun at the Jerry's Music Store.
Yeah.
And then we did that show at your friend in Malarkey's.
Yeah, Tyler's
place, and that was a lot of fun. And those guys were great, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed doing that workshop. But that was a number of years ago. That was before the world got crazy.
That was like 2018, 2019.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I just remember I'm like, I was at the drum clinic, and then everyone's like, man, you guys are playing Malarkey's tonight. Like it was a big deal. And I'm like, man, I gotta go check this out. I gotta see what's going on. So I was like,
you were underage.
I was
You got in that place.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah, I was underage. I walked in, and I wasn't drinking or nothing, but I grabbed a root beer, and I was sitting down, and I met your wife. And I was talking to her, and then you'd come off for a break, and we'd chat, and then you go back up on stage. Your wife was just an angel. She was awesome. But
she is awesome.
Yeah, you were cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. The real reason I was there. But it was really refreshing because it was there's a lot of these people that you look at that are these massive people in their industries. But there's a lot of people in the background that people don't realize are. Like you play with Eric, so everybody knows, you play with Eric Martin, lead singer, Mr. Big. Yeah. You used to play with Kip Winger.
Yeah. You've
played with...
Well, recently I've been doing a lot of stuff with Anthony Quarter. He's the singer from Tora Tora. Mm-hmm. We do a duo, kind of a duo gig. Tonight I'm playing with my old friend Johnny T-Bird, and we're doing two nights of blues. Mm-hmm. And I played in his band for a lot of years. But... nationally, I think it's been about 15 years. I took a chance. I'm kind of, by trade, I'm a jazz musician. I put out a jazz record about 20 years ago, a trio record called Ben Hand's Trio. We still like. It's still a great record, I think. And anyway, I was doing a lot of that for a lot of years, but I also play hand percussion, mallet keyboard, and other things. And
it's also the triangle player in a boy band.
I play a lot of crash cymbal. Triangles. Ed Grimley, I think Martin Short skit.
It's either that or cowbell.
That's too old for you, dude.
Just a little bit.
And I sat in with this fellow named Kip Winger, and I kind of hit it off with them, and I was playing djembe and cajon, and we had a great time, and I ended up playing with him for many years as a duo kind of thing, and he's in Nashville. we had a lot of conversations about, music and everything. And he said one morning, why don't you consider moving to Nashville? And I thought, wow, I never thought of that. He's there, and he said, this is the music city. Everything's happening here. So my wife and I went down, checked it out. I had some students that lived there and some other friends that I went to college with, and had a network already. And we just pulled the plug, sold the house, moved in just a couple months. But when I got there, I had been doing this acoustic thing, so it kind of kept going, and people knew me as the acoustic guy, play cajon and hand drums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that. And it's funny because Trixter kind of got started as an acoustic act. And the reason being that is I was playing the same setup I was doing with Kip with Eric Martin for quite some time. And we were doing a trio with PJ Farley from Trixter, and that's the connection there. But we played coincidentally, because I know you had worked at Sweetwater for a long time. We did a gig at Sweetwater where Eric was getting sick, and he couldn't play the next week, so he was getting a really bad cold and couldn't sing.
Yeah.
And as my throat's drying out.
Hey, drink some water if you need to.
And so PJ said, hey, we have this gig. We're opening for Warrant at this festival in Gibson City, Illinois. It's a street festival. It's a celebration of this healthcare company coming back from COVID and everything. And Eric can't make it, but I'm going to call Steve Brown from Trixter, and we'll do an acoustic set just like this. So here's the list. And it was like a bunch of songs from Trixter. Some of them I knew, a couple of them I didn't know. Had a couple of days. Here, do these. We're like, okay, let's do it. And we went and had fun, and Steve played acoustic electric, and he was playing this guitar, and I was like, holy shit, he's playing amazing on this, the thing that's got action really high. He's shredding in this.
Yeah.
This guy's amazing, right? Anyway, we played this gig opening for that band Warrant, and we hit it off, and we had a great time. And so we said, let's look at doing this. So it was acoustic Trixter for quite some time. And then I think it was last January, we ended up playing at the Rock Island Fest in Key West, Florida with Trixter. It was still an acoustic setup. And by that time I was using a bass drum and a snare drum. I had a 2-piece drum set, which was fun because I was going out playing, like laying it down with two drums. And I felt good about that because I didn't need a bunch of stuff. And I was grooving, and people come up and say, man, I've never heard anybody play 2 drums like that before. So I was like, oh.
I've never heard anybody play 2 drums in general.
That was great. But anyway, we were doing that, and the bill was crazy. It was Brett Michaels with Lou Gramm. It was his Party Gras thing with Jefferson Starship and Dee Snider, and it was a great afternoon of music. And I think after that gig, the guys just decided to play electric. So what did that mean? Well, no more acoustic sound, and Steve played electric guitar sounds instead of acoustic guitar sounds. And I brought a 5-piece drum set, so I'm up to 5 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drums. Yeah, it's fun.
It's a lot more to
hopefully I'm
haul
not
in.
just the acoustic guy anymore. But that happens in music, as you know, because you're a musician. Sometimes you get kind of pigeonholed. But I guess it depends on which group of people are talking about you. But I love all music, and I play all kinds of styles. And as long as the people are enjoying the stuff, the music, they're having a good time, and the band's having a good time. I don't care what genre it is. I like to play.
We're going to get you in some hip-hop.
Hip-hop. I would do it.
Laying down like a trap
If
beat.
the band was good, I'd do it.
Yeah, sure you would.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, my gosh.
So anyway, so we're out with Trixter this year, and their dates announced starting in March, but there'll be more announced shortly, and that'll continue on this year.
And then,
but I'm still doing everything else, but just not as busy. So
that makes sense, because it's I got to say, we haven't seen each other in, I think we said like 5 years.
It's been a couple years, man.
So having been a few years, I think because we used to call a bit, but then I remember when I was at Sweetwater, I was down in the cafeteria, and if you work there, you've been there, it's a who's who of people that just show up. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know what's going on. Yeah. Because there's people passing through, because like you, they need gear, or they want to play guitars, they're on tour and have nothing, they want to do some stuff. So walking through there, I knew you played with Eric because it just pops up on Facebook because you're posting that you guys have a gig or something. Yeah. But I always remember when it was popping up, I ran into Eric Martin in the cafeteria, and he was putting something on his burger, some ketchup or something. I was telling you this over the phone, But I look at him. I said, "Hey," I said, because I knew their drummer had passed away, and I wasn't sure who was drumming for him because it hadn't gone public that it was Nick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey," I said, "Is Ben there?" And he's like, "Nah." He's like, he plays a lot of the solo gigs with me, and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
So
true,
we ended up taking a picture, and I talked to you then. But
Yeah, man.
it's good to see you in person again. It's been a while.
Likewise.
So I guess one of the things is people know you a lot because you're on tour, but I think it's really cool. You actually teach a bunch, and you kind of shifted and you do a lot of different things. You wear a lot of hats.
True, yeah.
So, and you're from Wisconsin, and
Yeah.
you've got some teaching background there. Where did it start for you?
From the education side,
Everything.
you want?
You were
this
born
is
at a young
long
age.
Story.
At 2 years old, I was beat as a child.
Well, and I mean,
You were beat. I'm so sorry.
no, not at all. For me, I always use this line. It's true. I'm sort of a product of the public school band program. So I was really fortunate. I had a great teacher named Evan Fisher
Okay.
that is still here in the area. I believe he's in Watertown. But he was a percussionist and he was a band director. And I was interested in drums, and I had supportive parents, which is also very important. And they were pushing me to help get into music and everything because I think I did some singing when I was real young in school musicals and so on. I was always participating in things like this. And I auditioned for drums, and I made the school band for drums. Like there was a bunch of us, all elementary school kids.
Yeah.
So by the time I was an elementary school student, I was in the school band for many years and throughout junior high and high school. And I did all these things: marching band, jazz band. We had an awesome percussion ensemble when I was a kid because this fellow I was telling you, Evan Fisher was a great arranger and percussion ace. He was the best, and we would often give up our lunch periods and practice percussion ensemble, and we played a lot of festivals. And it was a steel drum band that I played in too. I played drum set in that, but yeah, steel drums. He had a
Steel
killer.
drums.
It was a Caribbean thing, and we did mallet keyboards and everything. So
For people that don't know what a steel drum is,
it's a steel drum. So it's
it's like when you hear like Kokomo by the Beach Boys.
Sure. It's an oil drum
Yeah.
that you tune, and there's soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and the basses are actually the whole oil drum, and then the sopranos are cut really thin.
Yeah.
I have some friends that play these. I don't play them that much, but they tune the top of the drum to pitch, and then
And it's a unique sound.
use a mallet that has like a rubber band on it. Yeah, unique sound. So I'd best say if you haven't heard this, you just look up Caribbean music and you can probably see them.
Oh yeah.
So I was fortunate. Then I bounced around a little bit in my college years to different schools and ended up studying at MATC Milwaukee, where they have a 2-year music program.
What did you originally study in college?
I was just general. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but
So what all were you thinking?
I had no idea. I just went to school, my first year of school. I had no idea. And then by the time I was 20, I got serious. And when I went to MATC, they had great teachers there. And then some of these teachers turned into my mentors. So he was a fellow named Jack Grassel, who was a great guitar player in Milwaukee. And he became a mentor to me, and another fellow named Tom McGurr, who was a great bass player in Milwaukee, and a number of other teachers there too. Terry Smurl, Gary Williams. Anyway, I studied with these people, and I found small group jazz through them. And so I learned all about Charlie Parker and Miles Davis and Bill Evans and Philly Joe Jones and Max Roach and Art Blakey and Elvin Jones, and fell in love with this music.
Yeah.
And I ended up playing a lot of jazz music in college. I also was in a rock band with my friend Donnie Sliger, and that's where I met my wife. So I played a lot of gigs at that time.
Wait, so
rock
how'd you meet your
gigs.
wife?
I met my wife. She was working for my friends Donnie and Jeff in this band that they called The Switch. And I joined this band when I was about 19 or 20, and we were playing all the way through southeastern Wisconsin and Illinois. It was a rock band.
Okay.
Played a lot of bars, some festivals, played a bunch of cover songs. We were writing some songs too, but that band kind of disintegrated. So I kind of went into the jazz world strictly for almost 2 decades. So I put out a jazz record. I studied with these great teachers, and they became my mentors. So I played in Jack Grassel's band for a decade, and he had an awesome collection of composition that had like all different meter So I was learning about, how to do mixed meter tunes where the time signature changes all the time. And he had some really crazy, like, 4/4.5 time or some. I can't think of all the different times.
4/4.5.
Yeah. It's basically like what?
Weird.
9/8 or some different things. It's all math, and then you have different time signatures. And he had some music that was very challenging. So all the rock stuff seemed a lot easier after studying how to play sambas and 7 and everything. And so I loved doing that. But through that period too, I was mentioning to you before, I put out a jazz record. And
thinking about doing another one, right?
I'd love to. I'd love to do another project like that. But the trio record, that was Jeff Stradel and Mark Salveson, who I played with a lot, and they're still good friends of mine. And we put out this record, we played a lot, and they decided to join or put together a blues band called Altered 5.
Okay.
And they were doing at the time some covers, and they were like bluesifying rock tunes. So they do like "Running with the Devil" as a shuffle from Van Halen, and other things like this. And they actually asked me to come and play with them, and I just wasn't super into it, and I was doing other things, so I turned them down. But they have become very successful, and you can look them up. They're Altered 5 blues band, and they get played on B.B. King's Blues House all the time on Sirius XM, and Tom Hambridge produces them. He's a Grammy Award-winning drummer that plays with Buddy Guy, and he's done tons of different records of the greatest musicians.
Yeah.
And Tom's a swell guy, and he's really helped craft that band into a menacing blues band. I mean, they're touring. They've been playing France and Europe and all over the U.S. They're killer.
Wow.
So check them out, Altered 5. But I want to do another jazz record eventually. That's it's in the plans.
No, that makes sense.
I have some friends I want to record with. We just haven't
done anything
gotten
yet.
that far yet, but that's
fair. I mean, it's Nashville. There's always time.
There's always things to do. And you asked me at breakfast about some musical projects, and I recently got in touch with my friend Donnie, who's a great rock singer. He actually came and sat in with Eric and PJ and I at a show in North Carolina and sang a few tunes, and the guys really liked him. Eric was like, "This guy's great. We should do a project." And Donnie's a great singer, so we're talking about putting together a project that just does some local things in Nashville, maybe plays on the Strip.
That'd be cool.
So there's always talk of projects and so on, but for right now, the thing that we're doing the most is Trixter. That's happening.
Jumping back though to the teaching.
Right. Yeah, the teaching.
The
Thank
teaching. You went over.
On back.
Yeah, exactly. Pulling it back.
Yeah.
You were teaching. You were teaching music in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah. So as soon as I graduated from college, I had been working with Jack Grasso, who was running the music program at MATC. And the year I graduated, I think that was 99. 98 or 99, right in there, 99. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That year, that summer after I graduated, he's like, "Hey, would you consider coming to teach for us at the school?" And I thought, this would be interesting. This would be cool. I think I'd like to do this. So I got hired that fall right away after I graduated college. And that led to like almost 20 years at MATC. And I started as the drum instructor there. So I taught just pretty much strictly drums.
Yeah.
But later I taught music theory and piano lab. And then eventually
I still can't believe you play piano.
I don't play great. I can just show people things. I'm not going to be Elton John taking requests. It ain't happening.
We'll see.
It ain't happening, man. But I mean, I can get around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have enough chops so I can show beginners where it's at, and they're not thinking that I'm not a great piano player. But I play mallet keyboard some too, so it's related. Anyway, I taught piano, but we revised curriculum and we added a jazz history course and a rock history course, which I loved.
Rock history course.
Yeah, we did a rock history course at MATC for a lot of years. It was great. I taught that. I taught music appreciation, so we did all the Mozart to Beethoven to Charlie Parker kind of stuff in that class too. And
so when did you transition into because you still teach a lot of that. When did you transition more into the music business?
Oh, well, I left it out. So I taught my music business courses
at
MATC as well. So that covered a lot of self-management and publishing, print publishing too, but copyright and performance rights, royalties, and contracts. Lots of ins and outs of the music business. And I liked that a lot. And I taught that for a lot of years. Before I left, we were working on a music business degree program at MATC, but I did leave and I moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
And it was fortunate that I was doing that because I ended up in the music business program at SAE Institute, which has a Nashville school. But there, throughout the country, there's an Atlanta campus and a New York campus, Chicago, Miami. Yeah, there's 5 in the U.S., but they're actually around the world. There's SAE around the world. They're based out of Australia. So we have a Canadian SAE, and there's a bunch through Europe and the Middle East too.
Wow.
And Asia.
So Kip Winger got in touch with you and said, have you thought about moving to Nashville?
Yeah.
So then how did you get the teaching gig? Like what was it something you...
Well, I wanted to continue teaching because, as you know, the music business is anything but regular. It's an irregular business, so it's a lot of freelancing. It really is. It's sort of like, I always make a comparison to being like somebody that works in construction or something. You know, you're trying to get jobs all the time. That's what it's at. That's where it's at. But I looked at a lot of the schools in Nashville and I applied at a couple, but I had a good friend named Martin Atkins. Martin was the drummer for PIL, which was Johnny Rotten's band after the Sex Pistols. And Martin lived in Chicago and he worked for a long time in Madison at a college there. And he used to come and speak in my classes. He was relentless and awesome because he kept calling my office and telling me, hey, I can't do his accent. Hey, this is Martin Atkins, and I'd like to come to talk in your classroom. This is a terrible, sorry, bud, I'm killing you. But he was great. He kept calling, and I was like, I didn't know him. I didn't know who this was. So I looked him up finally. I'm like, this guy called a bunch of times. He must be serious. I'm like, oh, this guy's, he has a book out, Tour Smart, another Band Smart book. He's an instructor. He's been playing drums, and he played Ministry and a whole bunch of bands, Pigface. He's been in the industry for many, many years. But anyway, he used to come over from Madison and speak in my classroom. And we became really good friends. And he eventually transitioned to SAE Chicago, where he was actually the department chair there for some time. And so we got to talking about SAE, and there was one in Nashville. And he wrote me a letter of recommendation.
Oh, wow.
And I went down and had an interview, and then it was a piece of cake that way because I had an in that way. So, yeah, it's the music business. It's a lot of networking.
I guess because I think networking, and I talk about this a lot, I think it's something that's lost in a lot of, I want to see younger people today. I mean, I'm not going to say that all ages aren't good at networking, but I like the young people especially because even with the advent of technology where things have gotten so impersonal, and then you also look at the fact that networking, a lot of the people look at it as a way to get a gig right out of the gate or to get a business or get a job or make money. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. You have a unique perspective, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is networking in the music industry is totally different. My buddy George Geekus of the Revivalists, he'll talk about it, and he's a very different kind of dude. He's a particular guy. He's an awesome guy. Love you, George. But he's a very particular dude. He's a guy that's things are in a row, and it's totally different from a creative where they're consulting with their psychic on Tuesdays and they're off the wall, you know? So how do you traverse that? Because you have the teaching perspective, and you also have as a working musician that gets gigs from that. I'm not saying Eric or the rest of them are weird. I thought Eric was cool.
Eric's very cool. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met. Eric Martin Short. He's hilarious.
His last name's Short?
No, man.
I just got
sorry.
that.
Martin Short.
I just got that. Okay.
So networking. I have a great quote, and I'm going to tell you who I got it from. I have a friend named E.T. Brown. He works at CSAC, but he's a great musician too. And he comes into my classroom nowadays and talks about performance rights organizations. And he tells students about CSAC, which is one of the three big performance rights organizations. Now there's more than three, but in the U.S. But anyway, he said he was talking about networking in my classroom, and the students are all often interested in learning about it. And he said when he was in school, he thought it was some scary word, and he didn't know how to do it and how awkward it would be to network. Like networking's awkward. Like I have to talk to people. What? He said someone explained it to him as networking's this. He said it's like hanging out. You got to go hang out with people and you got to talk to them. That's what it is. And I go, oh, really? Is that simple? You just hang out with somebody and like just talk to them, and that's networking. Like you don't have to like be really formal and like, hello, that kind of
buy the most expensive drink. Make sure the other asshole pays for it.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to, you just hang out with somebody. You be cool. You hang out, and in the music industry, I think that's the most important part of working with people is the hang. If you can hang with someone and be cool and get along, that's almost more important as how good you are. I mean, you have to be good.
Oh yeah.
You have to be at a level that is acceptable or beyond that, but you can't be an a-hole.
Well, big time.
Or people aren't going to work
but that's
with you.
with anything. I mean, like I heard
it's true.
I heard a great one. It was you got to have two of the three things. It was you got to be a cool dude, easy to hang out with. You got to be cool dude, easy to hang out with, great at whatever you do, or what's the third one? It is on time. Because if you think of the two
Punctual, for sure.
Yeah, two of any of those. If you're a dick to hang out with, but you're great at what you do and you are always on time, you're gonna get work in whatever industry. Yeah. But if you go over and if you're always late, but you're a great guy and you're really good, they're gonna wait for you. And if you're not that good, but you're a great guy and you're always on time, so in any of those those three combinations work.
Yeah, but you can run the mill with one of those too, and you can get fired.
Yeah, true. Speaking from experience here, Mr. Ben Hands.
Yeah, there you go.
But
so getting back to your question, so networking is an often overused word.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's your circle. I'll steal another quote from a friend of mine, Roy Elkins, and he has something called the Top 40. He talks about this all the time as he speaks in my classes. And Roy's great. He runs broadjam.com, which is a platform for songwriters.
Okay.
Where it's like a platform where you pitch your songs to the TV and film industry. And it's sort of like LinkedIn and SoundCloud together. And then you subscribe to this platform and you pitch your song. So he's been running that before Napster was even a thing. So he's one of the oldest music businesses online, Broadjam. Anyway,
no shit. Okay.
Roy has this thing called the Top 40, and it's not top 40 songs. It's the top 40 people that can help him do his business the best and help him grow his business, and also people that he enjoys speaking with. But he tries to stay in touch with the people that he has in this top 40 regularly. So he'll make a point to call them up and not have to ask for something, but just, hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, what's new, man? What are you up to? Oh, yeah. You're living in Wausau? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I always think that's a great idea, and that's a lost art, I think, on us because as humans, because everyone's used to texting and looking at someone's social media to see what they're up to. Friggin' call somebody.
Yeah.
Call them up. Go and meet them for lunch like we did today. Catch up with somebody. Be in person. Be in real time space with somebody.
And nice thing is don't talk about work. That's one of the biggest things. Half our conversation today was different projects we had going on. And that's I think that's what's cool is like, I agree. Because I look at especially with how transactional the world's gotten today. It's like, well, I did this for you, you do that for me, and we're keeping score. And it's such bullshit. Because I look at, I have my house in Indiana. There's a amazing older couple that lives right down the way. Stan and Barb, and they will do anything. Like they're super nice. I go down there and I'm like, they won't even let me pay for dinner. And they're very humble people. But I look at, if I need something, I call them and they're like, yeah. And I come down there and I'm like, let me pay for dinner. Let me pay for dinner. Or they're like, well, we need help moving this in. You bet your butt I'm over there. But at the same time, they'll try to pay me. And it's like, and that's one of the lost arts I agree with you on today is people are very transactional, but then they also, the network you build and the relationships you build, that takes management. Not all the time can you just say 2 years later, hey, can I help, or can you help me with this or this? Most people are going to be like, why the hell are you reaching out to me? Why haven't you texted me happy birthday or Merry Christmas? And at least from my perspective, I think it's a nice thing to do.
I try to make contact with even former students that I think have done a nice job, and they're in the industry and they're trying to get better still, just like me. Just trying to get better all the time, try to achieve more things. But students and former teacher friends of mine, and I try to move around. I don't have a top 40 like Roy, but I do try to keep in touch with people, and I always kind of kick myself because there's some people I want to reach back to that I haven't talked to in a while, and it's tough, you get busy but I think that's a big problem that our society has, is we're all addicted to the to the thing, and like we just discussed before we went on here, you sit at dinner with someone and you're at dinner and the dude's on their phone the whole time. It's real rude.
Bothers me.
It's like, we're sitting right here. We should be talking. What if you were watching this right now and we were both on our phones not talking? That'd be exciting. But it's true.
That'd be boring as hell.
I remember seeing, I was playing a gig. I was still here in town, playing in Waukesha. I was playing a show in Waukesha, and we were setting up, and the people were kind of clearing out for the night, and they were going to move the tables. But there was a family of 4, and this was years ago. 2 kids and the parents, and they were at the table of 4 eating, finishing their dinner, and all 4 of them were on their phone. They weren't talking, and they were just texting or just looking or whatever. And I thought, whoa, this is
trippy.
Where we're at, man. But I mean, it's just where we're at with the tech.
It's just stupid, though. I mean, because at the end of the day, you only have so much time with certain people. Yeah. Like right here, I mean, we got to grab breakfast. We're filming a podcast right now. Then we might see each other next year, or it's been 4 years already. I don't know. I think,
man, but you keep in touch.
I do.
We message each other.
We do.
So, that's the kind
of
stuff you want to do, even if it's a hey, a message. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Kind of thing. And so, I think that's a lost art. And the networking thing. There's also another quip that I like to use. I tell in my class all the time. You should try to meet 2 new people every week for networking. So a true networker, someone that's trying to take that to the next step, you need to make your circle bigger all the time. And that circle of people that you meet, even if it's peripheral and they know of you, that's beneficial. And if you keep building that circle of at least 2 people every week, you start having a larger network of people. And then if you're in business, and it doesn't matter if you're selling tomatoes or if you're a construction person or a musician, the more people that you know, that's helpful because they know of what you do. Fortunately, with social media, you're able to blow your own horn and keep blowing it all the time and reminding them that you exist. So I think that's a big part of the social media platforms.
It's easy to reach out to people because I look at when I was, so prior to going to work at Sweetwater, I went and I was working for a couple smaller businesses, and I'm like, we have this brand in the music industry, and it was an audio brand, and I'm like, we got to get some artists on board. We need people that are going to promote our stuff. And I just reached out to so many people, and I couldn't believe how people received it really well. And even just reaching out to people on my own and just starting conversations. One of my best buddies in the whole wide world, I love this dude, Trey Turner of the band The Icarus Account down in Florida, the one that had that studio that I was sick in when I first got the job that I was telling you about with the interview. He, I just hit him up on social media, and I was like, hey, this is, I love your stuff. I think it's cool. We keep in touch. We're working on some projects together and outside of the music industry. And it all just through just reaching out and just taking a chance. I mean, what do you think the problem is with networking? Like you, because you're from a unique perspective, like I said, where you get to work with a lot of these kids. Some of them are really good at their craft. Some of them are really good with people. They're across the board. What are the biggest tips that you have to give people? Is there anything that you see that any problems you see that you're like, this needs to change? That's preventing networking?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes young people don't listen. So I think that's also a lost art. I mean, to be able to know what someone else is into, or how you could help someone, you have to be able to be a good listener and just kind of hear, and also be genuine, and not be stiff or too into yourself, that you only talk about yourself all the time. So, and a lot of people are also just too quiet, like they're too timid to do solid networking. They're too scared of it. I think a lot of times for musicians, and it could be for lots of different things too, but I think fear stops some people, and I think some people they have a fear of being in public, or maybe even a fear of meeting new people, or a fear of meeting new people who are different than them, or a fear of new people who are different than them, that have different viewpoints or different skill levels.
Well, that's a big one.
So I think if you can overcome that, and not just be scared of a scaredy cat all the time, be genuine and don't be scaredy cat, and put yourself out there. And I always tell people, it's a lot like dating. It's not always going to go the way you want it to, and you might not find the right person, and you're like, oh, well, this person isn't the right fit for me as a mate or whatever. It's dating, and we've all gone through these things where we figure out, oh, this isn't working.
Yep.
And so sometimes that also can happen in a networking scenario, but you just realize, okay, well, it's someone that I might not jive with, but it still could be someone I might bump into in the future. And don't burn bridges in the industry. Sometimes young people can do that. They can come off a certain way. Some people, I do notice that some people with limited experience and lots of talent have huge egos, and they just haven't lived enough to get over it. A lot of the musicians I'm friends with and have worked with, they've eclipsed their ego. They're over it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll let
they're
you know when I get
super
there.
down to earth, and
Yeah.
And but I think a lot of people are guarded. I think that some people have super egos, or they're just insecure. That's part of the thing. But anyway, not going off the deep end on all that.
No, that makes sense.
Just meeting people, and it's so important. And like you said, it's tough though, because you're into that tit for tat. What can you do for me? I'll do for you. You do for me. That kind of stuff. Like, you don't want to expect that. I've never been like that, where I expect that if I do something for you, like, I'm going to get payback. Like, I'm somehow, that person, is going to pay me back in a certain way if I play this gig or whatever. It's always like, I want to play music.
Yeah.
I just want to go and have a good time. And if something happens, awesome. And some stuff happens, and some stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah. But I
just roll with it.
I think the hard part is, I find myself talking to a lot of different people about it, and just because it's lost today, and it is the way that you do business in any industry, is you look at, it's not, I do something for you, you do something for me. And it's like, yeah, you're going to help out the person, but there's also the unspoken, like, gratitude, where, like, if you do this, it's like, you don't owe anything. Nothing's written down on paper or in general, but out of gratitude and the kindness of your heart, you're going to be like, I'm going to return that favor, even though there was no favor there. And that's one of the things I think is lost today, because I talk to some younger entrepreneurs, and what kills me is I look at these guys and I'm like, okay, so this person lets you borrow their whatever, lets you use this, you were in a bind and they helped you out. I don't owe them anything. And that to me is like, this person just saved your ass and you're kicking them to the curb. I think you got to do everything in the world to help them out. It doesn't mean that it's going tit for tat, but there's, you know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that I think is lost, is that gratitude, or that sense of, like you said, with everyone being in technology or anything else, they're so sanctioned off from everything else where they don't actually, they don't care about anybody else. They don't listen, like you said, which I think is just complete bullshit. And it's really sad to see, because I see a lot of these younger, there's a big divide, because there's a lot of people that want to get out of their respective industries, especially in the music industry, because they always get pulled back in because they're legends, you know. But you look at any industry, they want to let their business go, but then they look at the people they're letting it go to, and they're like, yeah, I don't like this. And there's such a divide between that, at least from what I see. I mean, you've got probably got a different perspective on that, but
I mean, there's a lot there that you said, but I think what's lost on a lot of people is, in the music business, you're an entrepreneur, right? So as you're doing this thing, like you're in business, and a lot of times you're in business as the artist or as the musician, and it's so important, because if you don't see it as a business, as you're an entrepreneur, I think this is a great adage, you know, as a musician, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you're waking up looking for work every day. It's sort of like other businesses where you're looking for sales, maybe, and marketing and ideas and so on. But you, as a service industry person, as an entertainer, you're looking for work. You're looking for those connections. You're looking for the next gig. And for younger musicians, it's important to see that as a business, that you are developing your style or your brand or the thing that you're recognized for. And I guess through social media, it's a lot simpler today. You can get that out to a lot more people today. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of awesome things on social media where they're just naturally good at promoting themselves. And that in itself has become an incredible network. But I don't think you can live off of just that. You have to be in the real world, connecting with people and doing real people things.
yeah.
You can do a lot of awesome stuff online and on socials, but it's like spokes of a wheel, right? And the social media thing and YouTube, it's another spoke. You also have to have, you know, as a musician, you have to have your stage performance, and you're practicing together, and your schedule, like you said, be on time, and your business side, and understanding as you're being successful that you do have to collect information for taxes, and you have to pay your taxes every year.
Unfortunately,
You have to report your income, and you have to take care of that, and you have to understand what a 1099 is. And
so how do you bring the people into this? Because the reason I think it's cool what you do is because there's a lot of people that'll get into business and they find a mentor or someone else. But mentors in the music industry, it all depends. Because some do the business end really well, and some of them, you wonder how they're still floating. So how do you bring the people to the table and really teach them the business aspect of it? Because I guess one thing to preface, my buddy George, when he sat down and he walked me through how a band operates and says, like, well, we have these meetings every week or so where we talk about the expected revenue we're going to make, and like things like that you wouldn't expect. You think it's just a band, they're like cool dudes that hop on stage. And it's like, no, there's a method to the madness. How do you introduce people to that want to get into it, where it's just like a very creative outlet for them, and then you got to bring them into the real world?
That's good. I think there's different routes to get there. So as far as, like you said, having a meeting about expected income for the month, I mean, I don't know if I've ever been in one of those meetings, you know. That's interesting to me. But I just think there's a lot of different parts of this thing in music that you kind of have to get a handle on. And the people who are most successful have a handle on all of those things, even though you don't see that, You know, you're seeing them on stage or on a video or something, or in concert, like you say. You know, you don't see all that other stuff, but they do have their business together on the other side of that wheel. All the things that you don't see, like maybe management too, and you know, they might have a publicist, someone that's handling all their social media. A lot of people have that. That are very successful. You think that they're posting everything. No, they have a social media person taking care of that, and they send their stuff to the social media person, and that takes. But on the contrary, there's a lot of musicians that still they like to do it themselves. I have lots of friends that they like to handle that specifically themselves. But
even like with the contracts, because I know that's a big thing for a lot of people that general people don't understand. And I was fortunate enough being raised around that stuff that.
That's right.
Yeah. It makes more sense to me than the average Joe. So like when I first got job offers, I was looking through the contract and I'd be like, well, I don't like this part. Can we change this? Well, no one's ever asked us that before, but especially in the music industry where you've got a lot of people there, they find that they're really good at it. I mean, you can correct me on this, but the way that I see it is like, there's a lot of people that find that they're really good at something. They really love doing it. So they decide to go full time. Most of them don't look at it as like, okay, I need to make a career. I'm going to buy a drum kit and go.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wrong.
Well, you fall into it. It's sort of like a calling to do this thing. You know, it's sort of like being called to be a minister or being a firefighter or something.
Minister hands.
You have to.
Please rise.
To get called into it, and it's sort of like I know I speak for a lot of musicians. It's like, if you weren't doing it, if you weren't doing the music, you wouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at. Like it's like in the blood where you have to do it. And if you're not doing it, you don't feel like you're spending your time on earth wisely.
Yeah, true.
And so that's where you see a lot of people, doing it. And there are all different levels of doing it. But a little off track here. I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought, what you asked me just now.
No, you're
So
good.
I was thinking about a couple of different things, but
I think
the
you gotta-
law thing.
Yeah.
I mean, not like you kind of grew up around
Yeah.
law, and a lot of people don't get the chance to do that. So one of the things you do as an accomplished, if you're in a band or a group and there's record contracts coming your way, you have to get a lawyer. You got to have an attorney, a music attorney, that can handle the language of these things, and they can stand up for an act that's going to that point where a label might be interested.
And it's finding the right lawyer. Because
Yeah.
the hard part is a lot of people, they look at lawyers as like, whoa, I can get this one for $100 an hour and I can get this one for $600 an hour. But there's definitely finding one that's knows their stuff. Because that's one of the things that I see. And I'm going to trash lawyers for a second.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Are these where the lawyer jokes come out?
What do you throw to a drowning lawyer?
What?
His partner.
Oh.
Yeah. How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
3. One to get up on the ladder, one to push the ladder over, third one to sue the ladder company.
Sue the ladder company.
Yeah, of course. But I look at a lot of the lawyers, there's some of them that it's a shock that they are even a lawyer in the first place.
Yeah, well, same in the music business.
Ben doesn't actually play drums.
I don't.
He's lying to me.
I'm just a kazoo player.
Yes. Yeah. On Tuesdays.
So yeah, but that's a true thing. You have to find someone that you trust. But you have to find, especially in the music and the arts, you have to find someone that understands those things. I've heard people say things about, well, yeah, my divorce attorney can handle that contract and handle the copyright. I'll just mail it to myself. Whatever, man. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you need to get to a music center where there's these people that do this. And there are a bunch of them in Chicago.
Yeah.
And Nashville and Los Angeles and New Orleans and New York and so on. But music attorneys, they're a specific breed of the group of lawyers that you need to have
Big time.
to being successful in business. And a lot of people don't even understand that.
It's true.
Because the contracts are important, you know. I learned a lesson, especially even live music performance.
This will be good.
From Jack Grassel. He always used to lecture. When you're doing a live gig, man, you got to have your performance contract with you. You should have it in your pocket. So it was really funny. And this is kind of maybe a dumb story, but it's a true story. Years ago, I played a wedding, and and I hired him to play with me. And I had a sax man and a bass player, and we had a 4-piece, and we played a wedding in Racine, and at a hotel. It was wonderful, and they hired us for an X amount of dollars. And as we were finishing, the set before the dinner and the DJ would go on, the bride's father came over and handed my sax man $300. And he turned around and gave it to me, and then we had to play the last song. 2, 3. I'm like, I put the $300 in my pocket. I'm like, oh my God, this guy just paid the band and paid us only $300. It was for this amount, which was much more. I'm like, oh my God, now I have to
What's
go.
much more at that point?
I don't remember what the fee was, like a
couple grand, right?
$1,000, $2,000, whatever it was. And this is years ago. This is 20 some years ago. But I'm thinking, I'm playing. I'm like, oh my God, I hate confrontation. I'm gonna have to talk to this guy at his daughter's wedding and get all rough in his face. What am I gonna say? I'm playing. I'm like regretting what I'm gonna have to do next. We end the song. I get right up, go right around the space, find him in the hallway, and I get all ready to go. And I had the contract in my pocket.
Yeah.
It's like my teacher told me, and I said, hey, Mr. Smith, thanks for having us. Hope you had a good time. We had a good time. Did your people enjoy it? Yeah. Well, listen, you just paid my sax man. You gave him $300, and I wanted to. And he goes, wait, that was your tip. So he tipped the band before we got done. I guess everyone got $75. But
okay.
And he goes, oh no, here's your check. Right. But I had the contract in my pocket, and I was going to have to get after this guy. I was like, oh my God, what do I? And he didn't think that. Like he wouldn't have thought that I thought like he was skimping on us. You know what I mean? But that's what the sax player and I thought. We were like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But what a contract's main job is what a friend of mine said, the meeting of the minds. It's so that you have everything on paper, what your discussion was, and there's no misunderstandings, so that everybody is on the same page. And if there's a problem with someone misremembering something or mistaking something, everything in the contract is what was agreed upon and should have been read and should have been consented by both parties, and everyone agrees, and this is where we are. And then if there's a problem, you can go back to that document and say, well, this is what we agreed upon, remember? If you don't remember it, it's written here and you signed it. That, to me, is the main purpose of that contract. And a lot of people get gummed up with the ideas of contracts and having to add things and gobbledygook and blah, blah, blah. And it's just to have the facts written out and to be clear so there's no misunderstandings. And if there is somewhat of a misunderstanding, you can go back and look at it. And then if there's a really big misunderstanding, it can hold up in a court, and you can say this was agreed upon and didn't come through. And it as a musician, especially as younger musicians enter recording contracts, then there's a lot of things that younger people don't know what the language means. So you have to have that attorney. A live performance contract can be a couple pages or less, and it's not a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
And it's a one-time thing, but the recording contract is much more in-depth in different ways, and you have to understand what your payments are going to be and what you're going to end up having, if there's an advance, what the recoup is and what the percentages are and what your streaming percentages are, and have a lawyer that understands this too and that can tell the band members and the artists, this is what you're agreeing to. We can go back and we can try to negotiate this contract. You don't have to agree to it at all. You can disagree. You can say no. You can strike out things. You can but usually younger acts don't have the positional power to make great deals. But so someone who's an established act that's been in the business for a lot of years, they've had maybe many successes and big records and big tours, they can negotiate for better rates and so on. But a lot of times a baby band, they don't have the power to get those big numbers.
Oh, and bands can get screwed by contracts like the Goo Goo Dolls. At the height, you didn't know about this?
No,
the height of their fame, they were making less than McDonald's workers at minimum wage at the time. Because the record the contract they got into that made them famous bankrupted them. They didn't have they were living out of their tour bus.
Heard these stories.
On tour.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's been happening for generations.
What's crazy though is, like you said, with social
Get
media.
a lawyer.
Yeah, get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer before that happens so you understand what you're signing.
Well, exactly. Spend the money up front. Don't buy yourself a new guitar. Get yourself a good lawyer. But the other thing too is people don't realize that social media has so much power when it comes to stuff like that you can, in music especially, because music you're trying to capture the hearts. I mean, in business you're just trying to. You got a septic tank company. I mean, no one's going to sit there and be like, you know what, I love septic tanks. But if they need you, they want to know where to find you.
I run social media for a septic tank company.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Honeywagon Incorporated.
You're shitting me.
I'm shitting you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I got one.
Okay,
Gotta
you
laugh.
suck. You suck. But no, I look at, like, with social media. Like, I was talking to George, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of surprising. Some of the bands that open for us are bands that got big from TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
And it's crazy. Like Drew Trosclair, one of the co-writers of. You ever heard the song "Dick Down in Dallas"?
Not so good.
Dick
I've
Down
heard
in
about
Dallas.
it.
Yeah, so he was one of the co-writers on that song. They used to just sing as a campfire song till this one guy's like, "Hey, I want to record it." Records it, blows up on TikTok, and now he's got a career from it. And you look at, especially in that field, and I like the music industry particularly, because a lot of it never really traditionally started on social media. If it started on social media, they stayed as cover bands. Nobody ever took off and developed their own identity from social media, and it translated to the real world. And I was talking to George. I said, George, stop for a second. Look at this. Social media it transcended. I said, it goes from, okay, we're going to copy this dance that these people do to this song, to, okay, I like this song, I'm going to add it to my Spotify playlist, to, this song is so good on my Spotify playlist, I'm going to buy tickets. And typically you're driving 2-3 hours to go see a concert. So it goes from, you copy this dance, and now it's at the point that they'll pay, that record labels, the ones who are just looking at the money, they're not looking at, well, this band's got potential. No, they look at, will this band bring us in money? Is saying,
That's the way it's always been.
Yeah, but the fact that they're looking at this, seeing it's working, I think social media is just on the cusp of what it can be. For musicians, for businesses, or anything else. But I think the problem is, I think a lot of people get screwed over. I'm sure you see this, but you have a lot of these social media managers or promotional people that'll just put together all this content and keep recycling it, and it doesn't get any traction. And I think that's kind of like a lawyer. You got to find the right people in your corner that are going to get you results.
True.
Because if you get a divorce lawyer for your, good luck.
Yeah.
For any IP work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to do your homework.
Yeah.
When you're getting into that. When you're getting that serious as an artist, that you have your career of you've written a bunch of songs and you're going to do records and touring. That's part of the whole bag. And we talk about that in class. And I'm really fortunate to have some friends who are music attorneys pop up in the class.
Nice.
And connect them. And it's just part of the whole thing that way. And part of the business that people don't think about on the entertainment side as you're going to the concert, listening to the record. You're not hearing about all the back office work of the music business, which can be pretty mundane. But there are a lot of people involved in the music business that you've never heard of that are really responsible for a lot of other people's successes that are great business people. So it is a business in the long haul. It's the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about in classroom because people come in that are just you used to collecting records and hearing music and going to concerts and getting excited about trying to write that music that they like, or getting into DAW and Logic and saying, hey, I'm going to make this these new tracks and I'm going to make it happen. And we always talk about this, and I say this, it's like the internet's great and social media is amazing and there's so many opportunities for people, but it's a message in a bottle. You put your message out there to the ocean of the internet, and if you don't have a huge name already, or you're not a well-known household name, that's what you're doing, and you're throwing your music out there. I don't care what kind of music it is, country, hip-hop, rock, metal, jazz, whatever it is, you're throwing it out into the sea of the internet. And so then the marketing comes in. What other things are you going to do to help promote this and market this? What live performances are you going to do? Are you going to go show up on a TV show? Are you going to play Saturday Night Live? What are you going to do? Are you going to play on a daytime show or on the news channels? That can be a thing on PBS. Are you going to play live on the radio? Are you going to do college market? You know, what is your plan? And so those are all kinds of things that I like to talk about. And
but thinking outside the box with a lot of that, I think, is cool. Because, I mean, social media, I think there's potential there, but when you look at a lot of it, Trey, the guy I was telling you about, they used to play a lot of college campuses. Yeah. And they grew really tight niches, and they used to buy drinks and go hang with all the people afterwards. They grew such tight followings that when I was working at Sweetwater, one of the guys sitting across from me, I said, because Trey has an identical twin, or not identical, but a twin brother. And I looked at this guy behind me. I said, you look like a buddy of mine. He's like, is his name Ty? Trey's twin. I said, yeah. And it was like super weird, but he's like, yeah. He said they used to play this college and they had such a tight following and they just grew it by networking at these local gigs, like before and after, and they'd hit up everybody. They'd sell a couple hundred tickets at $5 or $10 a pop, which is a good chunk of change for you don't have to pay anybody else to do it. But the different outside of the box marketing tactics like that, or like you said, even going on a radio station or a TV or doing some big public event or something, is a great way to get your name out there. Like, you can't just be doing one thing.
That's a key point right there. You can't be doing just the one thing. You can't be just doing live shows. You can't be just doing only social media. There are people like that. Very seldom, but it does happen. They blow up from that, but it's hard to do that. The odds of that are strongly against you. But yeah, you can't be doing just one thing. And that's the key thing I would tell any musician trying to make it happen in the business, is that you should wear a lot of hats. I play music with Steve Brown from Trixter, and his motto is, you got to be doing 8 things in the music business to be successful. 8 different things that are all happening at once, and you got to spin the plates, and you can do it full time. I thought, that's a great idea. That's a good analogy. You know what I mean?
Good analogy.
I think that's a good way to live. To look at it. Unless you're just Beyonce and you can just do that. You know what I mean? If you're a guitar player, you're a bass player, you're a drummer, you're a keyboard player, you got to be doing a handful of different things. You're an entrepreneur. You're looking for things to happen. And then it's knowing the full compass of the music business. Now, for me, I've been really fortunate. I got into the print music industry. So I write, you're
an author.
I'm in a niche. I'm in a super niche, right? Drum books. But I've been really fortunate because I've been able to work with great people, and I've had some success. And I worked in publishing, print publishing. I worked for Hal Leonard Publishing in Milwaukee for years as a proofreader and an editor, and then a studio musician. I did a lot of these where I played studio sessions for all different types of educational books. You have to read charts, and you have to play like 13 bars of an Oscar Peterson part, and I had to be Ed Thigpen and stop on the end of 3 because it's a segment. It's really unmusical. But anyway, it was fun. I enjoyed doing those. But when I got to Nashville, I bumped into a college classmate of mine. His name was Troy Nelson, and I met him at MATC Milwaukee. And he was originally from Wisconsin, I think it was from Viroqua,
okay.
Yeah, over by Madison.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was in Nashville, and he had started his own print publishing company. And he came to me and he said, we had a bite to eat, and he's like, I want you to write for me. And he's like, I have this business plan, and it's on Amazon, where everybody's shopping, right? And my distribution's through Amazon, and it's physical, but it's a lot of digital. But it's Amazon Direct, and we're going to publish, and before you're done, your book's going to be #1 on Amazon. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I wrote a book for him called How to Play Drums in 14 Days. And it's like, that's the title,
I didn't know
right?
the story.
I didn't tell you that? How to Play Drums in 14 Days. And so it's not like, for $9.99, you can be a drummer tomorrow. It's not that. It's basically the lesson plan is, day one, you practice this certain skill and you keep doing it all day. And then tomorrow you do something different. And the third day, hopefully you'll still want to practice. And the fourth and fifth day, if you practice, you should be able to do this. And you can't master it in 5 days, but you can get an idea. By the end of 2 weeks, if you practiced every day, you know something. You can play something.
Yeah.
But then you can go back over it and you can keep practicing it. So it's not like a 14-day book. You're like, lose 300 pounds in 14 days. No. But he has a whole series of these. Play piano in 14 days, play bass guitar in 14 days, how to play the blues in 14 days, whatever. Topic you wanted, violin. And it came out a few years ago, and it kept circling the top 100, top 50, and then 10. Pretty soon, top 10 regularly was top 10, and then went number 3, and then boom, it went number 1 on Amazon. It had the Stick Control and the Alfred snare drum book, Syncopation, which are like these Bibles of drumming. I couldn't believe it.
You were beating out like the essentials.
All of them. But, it's the sales for that particular day. It's not like the whole week or something, but it's hour by hour, day by day. But just to see it there, to see my work. And then he sent me one over the Christmas holiday here. I had written another book for him recently called Snare Drum 365. So it's an exercise a day for snare drum.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. And both of those got in the top 10 just recently. And so he had 2. I'm like, this is awesome. So
how many copies did you sell?
Oh, I mean, good. I mean, a lot of them. I don't have a tabulation.
Like thousands?
Sure. But it's worldwide.
No
it's on
kidding.
Amazon. So it's like Kindle book. And it's like all the way through Europe and everything in the U.S. So it's physical. You can order physical books, but it's also the digital copies.
You can call me a dick, but I when I saw you were doing the drum books, I'm like, okay, he writes a couple drum books for like at local music stores. I didn't know you actually wrote some online that definitely skyrocketed.
You're a dick.
Fair enough.
I'm just totally kidding. No, that was just in the last couple years with
it's like
Troy.
Ted Nugent's.
Troy is really great at business. He and his wife run his publishing business. So that's the print publishing business. Not enough people who are musicians who are accomplished. Anybody could do this, right? All these great guitar players, piano players that can notate. I learned Sibelius software notation. You have Pro Tools. I have Sibelius, so I enter. It's this Avid runs both of those. They own both of those.
Unfortunately,
so I learned how to do Sibelius. You just learn. You wear another hat. You have that's one of my 8 things, right? Yeah. And I teach private lessons, and I teach at SAE Institute, and now I work at Roberts Academy at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, teaching general music with elementary school kids. And then I play in bands, and I play different types of music, right? And the list goes on. Yeah. So, I edit music. I proofread music. I do all kinds of things to keep a career going in the industry. So that's what I would tell anybody that's trying to get into doing music full time is you have to wear a lot of hats and you got to do 8 things. Thank you, Steve. In the industry and approach it as a business and approach it from the entrepreneurial side of making things happen in your career in business and using all the free tools on the internet, having a website, promoting yourself, marketing, and networking, and also continuing to master your craft. I was fortunate to find music as a lifelong goal of something that will keep me busy for the rest of my life that I would never master. There's so much to do. Just when you think, oh yeah, pretty good drum set player. Yeah. Listen to all this mallet keyboard stuff that I have to, and then piano. I would love to be a better piano player and spend a gazillion hours doing that, or playing marimba more. There's a lot of things that I would like to do.
What's your biggest fault? What's the biggest thing you're working on? Like, is there something that you're just like this is the chink in your armor that you just gotta?
Well, like I said, I'd like to be more accomplished physically as a piano player. I mean, I've got all the theory background and everything, and I understand it. I can teach beginner piano, but I'd love to sit down and be actually to play to compose. That would be where I would like to get to, and I don't have those chops. I mean, I can get ideas in my head, and I can sit down and I can poke them out.
Yeah.
But just to sit and improvise and then come up with things like a lot of people, I'm not there that way where I can match. I mean, I get ideas. I have a sketchbook of actual music, songs and things
Yeah.
that I haven't released or anything, but that would be a goal for me and musically that I would like to do as I age, as I get older, is be able to sit down and play more.
That's a lot of work.
I play guitar some, and I love guitars. They're gorgeous.
Really?
And I used to have a Telecaster. I had a maroon Mexi-Tele. I was great. I loved it. But I didn't practice. And I was like, someone deserves this more than me. And I sold it. Like I just didn't practice. And I really appreciate the skill set there. And I would like to be able to do that, to sit at a guitar and be able to accompany. I don't do that. But yeah, piano. That'd be the thing. Just so it could go directly, into the fingers, and I could be able to play it as it came through. But mostly, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I've got a melody in my head, which happens. I'll sing into the phone, and keep that for later in case I might need that.
Yeah.
For something. And I mean that jazz record I put out. That's kind of how the songs I wrote kind of came to me, different.
Just little ideas.
Just ideas and kind of linking things up, and there's one or two ideas on that record that I did behind the keyboard. There's a blues tune, a minor blues tune that I did like that. I just poked it out instantly, but I'd like to get better at that. That's for sure. Composition, music composition is probably a week. Not so much ideas, but the functionality of
No,
that.
I get what you're saying. That's the hard part, is when you have all these ideas appear and you're like, okay, it's like pushing a boulder uphill when you're making it, because you've got in your head, it's like, okay, I need to put this to paper. I don't know how to do this. And that's where piano is the easiest, but like you said.
I tell everybody, I tell my students that the ones that are into hip hop and all kinds of levels of different types of music and so on. But that's what the thing is. If you can master piano, especially if you're an electronic music producer, get right into Logic or Fruit Loop, FL Studio or something, whatever you're doing.
You're old enough that you call it Fruity Loops.
Be able to enter instead of just, chicken picking, that's BS.
So how do you keep yourself motivated? Because, I mean, that...
Good question.
Yeah, because you tour a lot and you teach. Yeah. Very tiring.
Yeah, coffee is my friend. I enjoy coffee. How do I keep myself motivated? That's a great question. I think you have to consistently set goals and try to come up with new goals. Fortunately for me, in the goals that I've had through my career, some of them I've achieved. And then that's a good question. What do you do next? Well, you have to keep setting new goals and be able to reach them and set them out and work a little bit every day. Do something every day in your career and in the processing of trying to get to those things that you want to do. I like to go to see concerts. I like to go see people play. I like to listen a lot. My wife will tell you I drive her crazy because I'm always playing music around me. So I'm always trying to hear new music or I'm listening to things I like. I constantly have music going. I'm surprised I don't have my phone going at this very moment playing something because that's my brain. It's just constantly going. But yeah, you have to motivate yourself. So yeah, in projects. So I have a new project that I have to get working on this year. A new snare drum book for Troy Nelson Music. So there's a deadline and I need to get to it. So there's motivation there. But
so you think it's just having cool things going on that you enjoy? Well,
yeah, it's projects, trying to make sure you, like I said, I was thinking about putting together this band with my friend Donnie, and I have another project, a jazz project that's still kind of on hold with my friend Eric Moronis. He's a saxophone player, lives in LA. He's great. I want to do a record with him. So there's things nebulous happening for me, and that keeps me going too. But playing the drum keeps me going. So tonight I get to play with Johnny T-Bird and just being able to play my instrument and enjoy it and see some friends. That's what keeps me going too. Playing my instrument. That's that continual cycle. It's a blessing to be able to play, to have limbs that work, and it's not lost on me that my limbs work and I can move and I can get to a gig and I can play an instrument. So, when I'm 85 or 90, I might not be able to do that. So I need to. You need to.
He was sitting there playing guitar or piano.
Yeah, maybe I can play piano at that time.
Is it Jason Becker that plays the guitar with his mouth?
Wasn't he great? He's so amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what the disease was, but he's paralyzed.
Yeah, lost function to all of his body. Now
There's drive. He can't even move, and he's composing music.
Exactly. And when you think through
Is
that,
it with his eyes?
yeah, it's his eyes. And the process behind that, it's one thing like to truly love your craft and to keep going and to stay motivated with something like that, because what people don't understand for a song is you don't just have one drum track, you don't just have one guitar, one bass, and one singer. You've got maybe 8 vocal lines, maybe 4 different guitar parts. In a recorded version, in a live version, you just got the 4-piece band, but in a recorded version, then you've got like 2 or 3 bass lines, one that's a synthesizer keyboard, and then you've got a drum kit with maybe an additional snare. So you add that all up, you're looking at least 30 parts. And if you got to do that with your eyes for every single note, for each of those 30 lines, for hundreds of notes, for a 3-minute song.
Yeah, if you don't know who Jason Becker is, go look him up.
It's incredible.
And look up what he's doing, because it's incredible, and it makes you appreciate even the minimal skills that you have. And it's quite a story. There's a lot of stories about that in music. I remember a story about this guitar player, Pat Martino, jazz guitar player, who was a killing guitar player in the 60s. He was one of the top jazz guys, and he somewhere along the line had a brain aneurysm or a tumor or something like this.
Wow.
Some really drastic brain injury where he couldn't move for some time. So he had to relearn how to walk, but the part of the brain that was injured forgot how to play guitar. So he had to relearn how to play the guitar and then to play his own music and come back from that. And I remember going to see him, it might have been 15 or 20 years ago now. I saw him in Milwaukee at the Pabst Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Played gracefully, played amazing. It was amazing. He had come back from this traumatic thing and had to relearn everything. And he was like the great master.
Yeah.
Lost it all and had to come back. So there are lessons there. If you learn a lot about other musicians, you can learn these lessons and appreciate what you have. And that's something that gratitude is underappreciated. You need to be grateful for what the blessings that you do have. So
instead of looking
that's motivating when you see what other people can do when they come up against great odds.
Mm-hmm. And the guys that say, "Yeah, F this, I'm not doing this." That's what I think. Because Jason Becker could have simply said, "You know what? I can't play music anymore."
Well,
I mean, they're a great example. There was this one guy, I forget where I heard the story, but there was a guy, he ended up getting in a car accident or something like that. Couldn't use his legs. They just turned off, or had a stroke. Legs turned off, wouldn't work. So his kid was living with him, his kid and his son and his son's wife, and I think they had kids or something. But he'd go over and they'd come home every day and he'd crawl out of the chair and he'd try walking. He'd try crawling because he just wouldn't accept it. And it got to the point where he got up one day and they're like, "Hey, we got someone want to grab the corn from the thing for dinner." And he'd been at this for like a year and a half because they kept grabbing him, putting him back in the chair. He stands up and he walks over and grabs the corn out of the thing, and they are floored. And I think the story was from a reporter, because the reporter was speeding, held to the hospital, got pulled over by a cop. The cop's like, "Why were you speeding?" He said, "You wouldn't believe it." He's like, "But this guy's walking again." And he's like, "I got to see this." So the cop and the reporter go to the hospital. Guy gets up out of the wheelchair. But all these people, you can accept the situation you're in, or you can go out there and go kick some ass. Get rid of the bullshit out of your head and say, "You know what? I'm going to do this." And that's what I agree. I think that's lost a lot today, but I think looking at that, there's so much it's inspiring, to say the least.
That's what's motivational.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go kick ass.
We're going to get you a bumper
I think
sticker.
about that a lot of times when I'm getting ready to hit the stage. People
Really?
say, "Do you get butterflies?" I'm like, I get excited and I want to go kick ass, So I got to go kick ass in Monroe, Wisconsin tonight.
Yes, you do.
So I need to get going. So
Well, sounds good. Well, I appreciate it. I guess you're playing a gig tonight in Monroe, in Milwaukee. And then again, where can they find what all gigs you're playing or the books you've written? Do you have a website?
Yeah. So it's benhans.com, benhans.com. That's where my home base is. Obviously, I'm on social media. I have a professional page on Facebook called Ben Hands Percussionist, and you can find me on Instagram, Ben Hands on Drums. And I'll be out with Trixter Band this year, and they're at Trixter Rocks, Trixter, rocks.com. All the dates will be listed there shortly, but like I said, we're starting out in March. I think it's in Kansas. We go all the way out west and back around again to Illinois and Ohio. So you see us this spring, but we'll be out all this year. And hope to see you at a gig.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks again, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to see you, man.
It's good seeing you, too. It's been too long. We'll see you in another 4 years.
No, it's shorter than that.
I
man.
know.
All right.
I'm going to be in Nashville regardless, so.
Rock on, dude. Come and see me.
We'll do.